It is Monday, and I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Iskovitz. It's Monday. We know it's Monday because I have my Gary the Snail Angry Monday mug. Hope everybody had a great weekend. It is the last Monday in July. And a lot of changes going on. I mean, obviously, it was just a swamp last week. It was a rainforest last week. We have a lot of changes that are already happening across southeast Texas. So we'll talk about a lot of the forecast stuff here coming up in just a minute. We're talking about rainfall totals. We're talking about what to expect this week, the extreme humidity, the possibility for heat advisories, earthquakes in Texas as well. And I'll have all that for you coming up. But first, I wanted to talk about Twisters. See, we went to the movies as a family. We went to the movies twice this weekend, which, you know, that's a lot in one weekend. So I tried to control myself. We got the bucket O popcorn, which I like. I did get an icy to watch Twisters on Friday, and then I got a Diet Coke last night to watch A Quiet Place. So with regards to Twisters, no spoilers. I promise no spoilers, because I know a lot of you haven't seen it yet. But as a meteorologist, I'm required to watch Twisters because you have to. And my conclusion is it was okay. It was okay. It wasn't the greatest movie ever. It wasn't the worst movie ever. It was fine. A lot of people, though, want to know, well, like from a weather person's point of view, was it accurate? Was it, you know? And, you know, it was fine. I mean, you know, there were some things that they were doing that are great, that are pretty cool, that were reasonably, you know, scientific and understandable. And then a lot of the rest of it was just sort of silly. Like, I've been explaining it to people by saying that it's like they took a bunch of random words from the glossary of a weather textbook and just threw it together and made dialogue out of it. So what I did was I asked ChatGPT. I love ChatGPT. If you haven't used ChatGPT, you should try it. You could download it as an app, or you can go to their website. But the app is easy. It's more fun to use than Google, because Google, you search something and you get websites to click on. You also get ads, but I mean, you get websites to click on, search results. With ChatGPT, it'll give you an answer. Like you could say, explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old kind of thing, you know? So here's what it can write you a song or poetry or, you know, jokes. I mean, it can do a lot of different things. But this is what I asked it to do, because this was my impression of the writers, the screenwriters for the movie Twisters. All right? So the prompt that I gave ChatGPT was, can you create a movie dialogue for me between two people using random and nonsense meteorology terms? And here's what ChatGPT came up with. 2 characters. Character 1 says, did you catch the latest zephyrometer reading? The cumulus nimbus stratovolcano is about to be jumbled. Ooh. No way, I thought the phobospheric undertow was in retrograde, causing a flux in the thunderflaps. That's about it. Exactly, and with the altostratus flibbertigibbet oscillating, we might see a reversal in the ionospheric snorkels. Character 2 says, unbelievable. We better prepare the cumula popcorn generators and recalibrate the barometric doodads. So that's my impression of the Twisters dialogue. Again, not telling you not to see it. You should see it. It was a good movie. It was a good movie. It wasn't a great movie. Plus, it's got this guy, Glenn Powell. Very handsome. Very handsome. All right. To the graphics we go. We're going to talk about earthquakes. So, over the weekend, well, actually it started on Friday, there was an earthquake that hit out in West Texas. It was a magnitude 5.1 earthquake. Now, just as a little refresher, a lot of people will still say, and you'll hear some news anchors say it, they'll say on the Richter scale. They'll say it was a 5.1 on the Richter scale. Well, with all respect to Mr. Richter, who was a pioneer in the field of seismology, the science has made a lot of progress, and they don't use the Richter scale anymore. So when you hear an earthquake described, it is simply magnitude. So a 5.1 magnitude. And the reason it's just expressed as magnitude is depending on where the earthquake hits, depending on the type of rock formations, how deep it is, lots of other factors, the geologists and seismologists will use a multitude of different earthquake scales to assign it a magnitude. One of those might be the Richter scale, but there are a lot. There's the moment magnitude scale. There's a lot of other scales. So 5.1 magnitude is the correct way to say it. So that occurred on Friday, July the 26th in West Texas, sort of in northwest Texas, not too far away from Abilene. And then on Saturday, there was another one. So there was a magnitude 5.1, followed by a magnitude 4.5. This was right along Interstate 20 to the west of Abilene. This was near the town of Hermleigh, Texas. I mean, this is out there. You know, I mean, these are small town Texas, but there is some terrain there. I mean, you can see there are some river valleys. I mean, there is some terrain. And whenever you have terrain that isn't perfectly flat, then there are probably some fault lines under the surface, and there are some faults in Texas. And yes, you can have natural earthquakes in Texas. But get a load of this. There have been 80 measured earthquakes there in this part of northwest Texas over the last 3 days. 80. Now, they're not all 4s and 5s. A lot of them are really small. But there's obviously something seismic that's happening there. There's something that's making the ground move under the surface. Now, I hope to very soon be able to interview and talk with Dr. Brian Stump. He is a professor of geology, geophysics, seismology at Southern Methodist up in Dallas. And he has studied this a lot because the Dallas-Fort Worth area has had a flurry of earthquakes in recent years, you know, over the last decade or so, maybe decade and a half. And so his hypothesis and the research that he has is pointing toward this, which is that this is tied to fracking. Now, this is a sensitive subject. I don't know why it's a sensitive subject. It really doesn't make any sense, but in fracking, and I am not by any means an expert, but anytime you are extracting something from under the surface that used to take up space, it's going to shift the layers of rocks. And then in the process, you have this wastewater that's this really, really salty water that they can't just dump into a river or something. So that gets re-injected down into the well, and that again, according to the experts, is what is the most likely source for the earthquakes that they've been getting with much, much, much higher frequency in North Texas and West Texas in recent years. So that's it. That's the deal. There's even occasional, you could have an earthquake due to a underground salt mine. Like in Louisiana they have that, and in East Texas they have that, where there's salt underground. And if that gets carved out or eroded for some reason, you could have a shifting of that under the ground, and it causes a very small earthquake. So there's a lot of reasons for that. It's not always a huge fault line like they have in California. So earthquakes, that's sort of the big story of the last several days. I also want to talk about rainfall totals, these incredible rainfall totals that we've had around here have led to some river flooding. I'm going to switch my computer here because we're seeing a complete pattern change here this week. So here we go. So this is going to show us rainfall estimates. Now these are estimated rainfall totals from Doppler radar. And let's see, this should pop up here at any moment. Here we go. So this is a look at estimated rainfall for the last week. And the numbers are tremendous. Now actually just off the coastline, you see where that where this turns kind of white and then gray and then pink. That's about 20 inches, 25 inches. But that's out over the water, so it doesn't, who cares, right? But all of these blue colors that you're seeing here, like near Bay City, over here around Roche Sharon and south of Pearland, parts of Galveston County, over here to Chambers County, I mean, that all represents like 10, 11, 12 inches of rain in a week. And then there were a couple other spots that were hard hit out here in northwest Harris County, south of Hockley and Cypress. Also the Woodlands, remember, we had flooding in Conroe and on the north and west side of the Woodlands. We had one day where I think there was almost, I think it was about 9 inches of rain, 6 to 8 inches of rain in one day, and a lot of it fell in about a 3-hour time frame. Excuse me. So a lot of the totals that you're seeing here they're not spread out. They weren't spread out over days and days. Most of it picked one spot, came down super heavy, and the rainfall rates were what was really impressive. That's like how many inches per hour. And there was a morning over in Baytown where it was falling at a rate of almost 6 inches an hour, that's bonkers. That's like hurricane, that's tropical storm kind of rainfall. And it has resulted in some river flooding. So we actually do have a couple of graphics that we can show you that plot that kind of thing. So this takes data from from NOAA, and it plots here. Green means no problem. Red means moderate flood stage. Yellow is minor flood stage. And we can actually go click on some of these and see. So this one's out in northwest Harris County. So this is Cypress Creek near Hockley. Remember, this is one of the areas that I told you was pretty hard hit by that 9 inches of rain approximately. So right now its current level, Cypress Creek is 154.5, and action stage is 154.3. Action stage is sort of like, whoa, it's rising. Let's watch it, take action. It's not considered at minor flood stage. So that's what's going on with that one. So that's good. We also have this area here, which is the East Fork of the San Jacinto River. This is up by New Caney. And that one is at moderate flood stage. Moderate flood stage begins at 62 feet, and this one is 62.8 roughly. So it is a little bit more than half a foot above flood stage. So we can look at that one. And then you have the Trinity River over here at Liberty. This one has been almost nonstop flooding for you guys since late April, since the storms of late April. So the Trinity River at Liberty is now about half a foot above moderate flood stage. So at least we're not at major flood stage, which is where it ends up very commonly. And then also, so this is the San Bernard River at Old Ocean. And let's see, why isn't this popping up here for me? Well, there we go. San Bernard River at Old Ocean, and that one is running at, let's see, about 1.73 feet above flood stage. It just occurred to me, I have my phone here. I did get a note because I was watching... Okay, this is interesting. So last week I was talking about this spot, which is the San Bernard River near Old Ocean. Now, this is down here in Brazoria County, near West Columbia and near Sweeney. So, and I've passed by there before. Let's see, I don't know if I've been to West Columbia. I've driven past Holiday Lakes. You drive past that if you go on your way down to Surfside Beach. But I've never been over there to Old Ocean. So I said in one of our shows, I said, hey, I've never been to Old Ocean. Does anybody live in Old Ocean? Can you tell me a little bit about Old Ocean? So I got a nice email from Sharon. And she said, my name is Sharon. Last name, not necessary. I watch your videos and in the morning. And, okay, she says a bunch of nice things. Thank you, Sharon. You wanted to know where Old Ocean, Texas was. Not many people live there anymore. But Phillips 66 and Chevron Phillips has a big plant in Old Ocean. It's the Sweeney Refinery. Did not know that. You could look up Phillips 66 Sweeney Refinery, and you'll actually be looking at Old Ocean. I hope this is helpful. Have a great weekend. Your friend Sharon. Isn't that that's so nice? So now I'm curious. Let's learn about Old Ocean, Texas. So, well, we do have a little bit of rain. Let's zoom in. So it's over here. Let's see. Here's Old Ocean. Oh, absolutely right. So look, it's a petrochemical plant. Old Ocean. See, this is an old Phillips 66 chemical plant. Is it still in operation? I guess. But that's what Old Ocean is. We've learned something today. So shout out to anybody who works there at the old Phillips 66, if it's still in operation, facility there in Old Ocean. That's very, very cool. While I'm down here, I want to share something with you that I love. So whenever we show this map of Matagorda County, you may notice this thing right here in the middle of the screen. And you're like, what is that? It's like is it a lake or something? And what in the world is that? It is a lake. Well, it's a cooling lake. And the reason the cooling lake is there is because of this facility, which is called the South Texas Nuclear Project. This is a nuclear power plant that is down there in Matagorda County. And so there are cooling systems here. And so that's why this water exists. And I love that. I mean, it's the only nuclear power plant I know of around here. If there is another one, let me know. But that's the only one I know, the South Texas Nuclear Facility. And so anyway, that's enough of that, right? I think it's pretty cool. So we talked about the rain totals. Oh, let me show you this. So this is the pattern change that we're going to be undergoing this week. Has to do with the location of high pressure and low pressure. So last week, we were under the influence of low pressure. We had like a trough, what we call a trough, that was nearly stationary on top of us all last week. And so that's why we had like day after day after day of like it's a rainforest. What's happening this week is temporarily that entire thing is changing. So when we take a look at this graphic, I'm plotting the upper level pattern. Now this is at a level in the atmosphere that we call 300 millibars or 300 hectopascals. So we're several miles above the ground here. This is basically almost at jet stream level, but it does control a lot of the storm path and things like that. So whenever we're under the influence of that high pressure, generally you'll have sinking air, you'll have the storm track will go all around the outside of the high. So this is a look ahead at Tuesday. And then here is Wednesday, which I'm going to talk about the implications of that here in a minute. High pressure right on top of us on Wednesday. And then here's Thursday. And then ultimately by the end of the week, high pressure sort of retreats out toward the west. And it's going to open up the opportunity for us to see some rain by the weekend and maybe early next week. Let's talk about the significance of that high being over our area on Wednesday. Because what it is likely to do is trap a lot of this Saharan dust that is moving our way in place. So we have a plume of dust that's coming in on Tuesday, and I have it paused here on Wednesday at 12:15, basically at noontime, with a pretty thick layer of Saharan dust in place. And I think this is probably the most dust that we've had so far this summer season. We usually have a couple of rounds of dust. Happens a lot over in Florida. It happens a lot in the Caribbean. And it's usually associated with sort of dead time, when there's not that much happening in the Atlantic Ocean. And so that's why, other than Beryl, we really haven't had anything out there since Beryl. And I think you're going to notice it in the form of some haze in the sky. We're going to keep an eye out for air quality. We do get an air quality discussion from both the EPA and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, TCEQ. So our air quality is actually fine today. It's considered moderate, which, but again, the dust isn't here yet. But when we take a look at here's the forecast. I'm looking at the forecast right now from the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, and they're predicting, let's see, by Thursday they're predicting high levels of particulate matter, but I would even be concerned as early as Tuesday and Wednesday with Saharan dust maybe affecting our air quality. So that's what's going on with that. Finally, let me leave you with this, which is an update on the tropics. And we'll go ahead and put this in motion here. And there's really nothing that sticks out, right? I mean, you don't look and see anything like, oh my gosh, at least not in the Atlantic Ocean, that really looks like it's popping up. But during the day, like right now, we can use the visible satellite. See, what you're looking at right now is called the infrared satellite. So we're detecting temperatures here. Visible satellite lets us just see like it sounds, visible with our eyes. So right there in the middle of the screen is this little weather disturbance, tropical wave, tropical disturbance. And so it's not a depression or a storm. It's really, there's not much to it right now. But as it sort of exits this area with the very thick Saharan dust and moves its way closer to the Caribbean Sea, it'll have a little bit better chance of developing. So this is the area that the National Hurricane Center has highlighted as being an area where this thing may develop. So this is between a 40 and 60% chance, they have a 50% chance, of this system developing into either a tropical depression or maybe a tropical storm coming up over the next 7 days. So really we're talking about, let's see, this is Monday, so we're talking about Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe, in this area, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, maybe Cuba. Right now, some of the newest models I was looking at this morning, let me see if we got an update, but the newest models I saw were pointing more at the Carolinas, if anything, and keeping it relatively weak also, so not a super strong system. Yeah, the GFS actually kind of shows a tropical wave maybe heading into the Gulf, but weak, like not that much to it. And then, let's see, the European model is showing a tropical wave headed toward the Bahamas, on Thursday. We'll keep an eye on it. It really is all open. It's basically open right now. I'll leave you with this, which is the Fox model. So this is our exclusive Fox model. This will take us through a 96-hour forecast, and I've kept this this guy right here in the middle of the screen. And notice how the Fox model, which by the way did a really good job with the intensification of Beryl, is not really showing much. So that's good. Hopefully it stays that way. All right, well, it is time for me to say goodbye. I got to get ready to Mondays, like I tell you every week, Mondays are insanely busy for me. So hope you got something out of this. Go see the movie Twisters. I'm not telling you not to see it, but just take it with a grain of salt. And you should see A Quiet Place, day 1. That was good. Shout out to my mom and Neil in beautiful, sunny South Florida. And I will see you all next time. Take care.